This will cause a huge reduction, a huge increase of about 22% across the board for every single American. That's huge.
So
Absolutely
you're saying
huge.
me as a small business owner, I'm going to have a 22% increase in my tax that I owe in taxes next year?
And it could be higher. Yeah, it's huge. It's a huge tsunami waiting to happen. Hi, this is Robin, your tax therapist. And again, I am here with Tamara Neely from the Tamara Neely Show. And today we are going to discuss about the first 100 days of the president regarding his tax policy.
I'm super excited. Thanks for having me on, Robin.
You're quite welcome. I'm glad you got to come again.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate it.
Yes.
Okay, Robin. So, where should we get started?
We were talking earlier about listening to the press release that happened with Stephen Miller.
Oh, yeah. Let's play that first.
Let's play that.
Okay, awesome.
Announcement, but I'll just reiterate that right now, countries from all over the world, because of President Trump's leadership, are desperate and dying to make trade deals with the United States. We're going to evaluate each of those deals, and President Trump is personally involved in making sure that these negotiations serve only one interest, which is the interest of the United States of America, and we'll end up with a deal in these cases where, yes, the other countries, obviously, will have their own demands and their own interests, but nothing will go into effect that doesn't serve the interest of America and the American people.
All right. So you heard him. He said nothing will go into effect that would basically deter from the interests of the American people. I'm summarizing what he said. Robin, can you please kind of explain to us what are the tax implications of the tariffs?
Okay. I would be happy to.
Okay. Well, that's really nice of you. So very nice of you. Okay, go ahead.
Welcome. So President Trump has caused quite a stir in the first 100 days. This happens every 4 years as we get a new president. And so it's always really important to know what's going to happen because it sets the direction of the country for the rest of his term. So one thing that was really important to him was taxes and how it relates. Back in his first term, he had created what was called the TCJA, Tax Cut and Jobs Act, which we've been under for the last 10 years. So it was kind of a suspension of what the actual tax law was, and it kind of overrode it. But it's getting ready to expire, which is going to cause a huge tax tsunami.
Oh, hold up 1 second. So you're basically telling me that in Trump's first term, he had passed some legislation, signed some legislation that made it to where we got all these deductions, right?
That's correct.
So we had all these deductions, and now those deductions are about to expire. And let's just say, not only, first of all, the American people are a little bit concerned. They're a little bit afraid. And then also there are major implications around the world as far as what could happen.
Let's tie back to the video you just watched, the clip you watched. Okay. So the tariffs that they imposed, how does that affect us? Our first thought is, it affects the purchase of a vehicle. It causes the purchase of our groceries to rise, that kind of stuff. That is true. However, here's what you don't know. It's revenue raising. So what happens is when the House and Ways Committee, which is part of the House, passes a law for a tax deduction, it has to raise revenue from another source. Okay. When it raises revenue from another source, it could be a situation where they negotiate a deduction, but more likely it's from something like a tariff. So when they increase the tariffs, it reduces the amount of revenue that they need to raise on the American people. And when it does that, then we benefit from it. However, we are getting ready to have an economic tsunami. And that economic tsunami is those tax cuts that are going to expire. Wow. And here's how it's going to affect. In general, the child tax credit is going to be cut in half. So that $2,000 deduction you got for child now goes down to $1,000. The standard deduction, which is about $30,000 for a married couple, goes down to $15,000. Wow. That's a huge tax increase.
That is a huge deal.
26 million businesses who take advantage of the 199A deduction, which is your qualified business income deduction. It's a 20% reduction and your tax goes bye-bye. This will cause a huge reduction, a huge increase of about 22% across the board for every single American. That's huge.
So you're saying me as a small business owner, I'm going to have a 22% increase in my tax that I owe in taxes next year?
And it could be higher. Yeah, it's huge. It's a huge tsunami waiting to happen. So part of the reason that he's trying to impose these tariffs and negotiate all these tariffs is to help the American people so that in the long run, our tax liability will not be as high.
Oh, so as Stephen
Miller.
As Stephen Miller was saying, this is going to help us in the long run, right?
That's right.
And so in the short run, there is going to be some hurt. And that's why Robin's here, to be honest with you. Mm-hmm. And this is why she's your tax therapist mm-hmm. and mine. Okay. Mm-hmm. So this is going to affect people. Mm-hmm. How can they prepare? Do you have any recommendations?
Well, right now there's not a whole lot you can do. The law goes back, if they don't expend those, it goes back to what's in the actual tax code. And actually, by the way, there is no child tax credit in the tax code, so it goes to 0.
Oh, wow.
That's huge, right?
Wow.
And so it goes back to a personal standard deduction, and it goes back to a personal exemption. And those are still set at about $3,000 or $4,000. So that's very, very low. So yeah, it's huge. So here's the thing that you have to look at. We have to look at what is the basis, right? What's the actual for a small business owner, right? That 20% that we've been taking advantage of, it goes bye-bye. So how do you compensate for that? Well, there's not a whole lot you can do at this point in time. Mm-hmm. We just have to be in a waiting and seeing situation.
I see.
So,
okay. Man, that's tough, but we're going to keep you updated, right? Robin, you're going to keep us updated?
Because they're in the process of negotiating all that stuff. Okay. The House and Ways Committee. So here's how it kind of works, okay? Mm-hmm. The House Committee on Ways and Means is the committee that plays a crucial role in the legislative process related to bills in the United States. It's the main committee in the House that handles revenue, increasing, and deduction. So they're the ones that we have to pay attention to, right? And you can go online and you can look them up. So you can go House and Ways Committee. I know it's hard to say, right?
House Ways and Means.
House Ways and Means, yes.
Okay, all right.
So you can go look and see what they're doing. There's a whole bunch of bills. In fact, we went last night and looked it up. There's like 5 or 6 different bills, and what do they look like? We didn't actually take the time to read. We can just see that there's multiples. Mm-hmm. So what happens after that? The Senate also passes a bill that's along the same lines. And then between the two, they have a reconciliation process. That reconciliation process comes up with basically a decision in terms of what they think is best for everybody. And then it goes to the president for either veto or for signing. If he vetoes, it goes back to them for reanalysis, and then eventually things get settled. So how long can that take? We don't know. The president originally wanted it in May, but more likely they're saying now it would probably be July. However, the process takes quite a bit of time. My expectation is we will see something before the end of the year, but the sooner we can find out, the more we can actually plan. So where do we go from here? One thing you can do to educate yourself is pay attention to what's going on in the House Ways and Means Committee. Another thing is to pay attention to our videos. We are in the process of doing.
Okay.
Please subscribe. We are in the process of updating ourselves as a professional and a tax planner. Mm-hmm. With the uncertainty of it looming, we hope that they will come to a resolution that will be a win-win for everybody.
Of course.
So where does it eventually settle? We don't know. Until they actually pass a resolution, mm-hmm. We're all in waiting. Mm-hmm. So keep looking for more updates as we look at the proposed bills coming through, because we will take the time to actually read them. Until then, please like, comment, and subscribe. I'm Robin, your tax therapist, and thank you to Mary Neely for coming on my show.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it. You're welcome.